How is it going, folks? Welcome back to Prem, welcome back to episode number 64, and welcome back to part 2 of Season 10's Transfer Special. Of course, we are preparing for the Championship. It's been a tough road so far to get here, and now that we're here, we very much find ourselves in the deep end. Today we should officially be promoted, which will mean we can check all the pre-season odds and stuff. Of course, if you missed yesterday's Transfer Special, you should probably go watch it because we've made some new additions since then. We've added some big players to the club. No real sales of massive note yet, although when you kind of look at the current team and the current values, not sure who we'd sell for a load of money anyway. Before we do get into things today, I want to hold up my hands and apologise to Dundee United fans because Jack McKenzie, who we signed yesterday, I said we signed from Dundee. Dundee United, two different teams. I'm ignorant. I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm sorry. Let's run the intro. Hope I don't offend any more viewers today. Let's see if we can add some players. That would be nice. Park to Prem, episode 64. It starts right now. Now, of course, one cliffhanger that we left things on last time was Reece. And Reece, I need to decide if I want to sign or not. Super consistent, loves important matches, has agreed to join us for £1,500 a week. The caveat, he wants £3,400 a week in wages, which is quite a lot. I mean, when you look at the scout reports, apparently he's our third best centre-back. I don't know if I believe that or not. And with that in mind, and just because I think the wages are just a little bit too much for what I think he's realistically going to offer, I'm going to cancel this transfer. Yes, that's right. We're starting a transfer special by cancelling the only transfer that was currently going on. Now, of course, it is the 23rd of June in-game. Come the 1st of July, some players will hopefully get released. That might open up some new opportunities for us, as well as maybe delving into the loan market. When we look at our current squad on the shopping list today, right wing back, centre-back. Those are the two main orders. Of course, we did pick up Burstow, Davis, McKenzie last episode. Some really good additions there. Truth be told, we're looking to add just a little bit of quality across the team. The centre-back position is definitely an area I'd like to address. And to be honest, in an ideal world, we would just renew the loan of Daniel Hooper. Of course, in on loan from Everton, was a very, very useful player for us. I'm wondering, do they want to loan him to us? They do kind of want to loan him to us, but they want us to pay £4,000 a week in wages. And for as good as he is, I feel like I can probably find a free transfer who's just as good on a similar sum of money and whom maybe we could sell on down the line. Loans are fantastic. Loans are really good if you're a team that don't have a lot of money. I feel like as a fullback option, if you can't get in free transfers, because ultimately, when you're a team like ours, and I talked about this last episode, in order to make money, you've got to sign players and then sell them on. And if you solely rely on loans, that's never a player who you're then going to be able to flip on for some money. So with that in mind, we're going to look for free transfers, I think. So one thing I did see people talk about last episode was financial fair play. Of course, in League One, your wage cap is determined by your turnover. The rules in the Championship are a little bit different and they actually work in our favour. I'm going to hope that Editing Jack remembers to move my face cam or make me invisible or something, because you can see here, teams must avoid making a loss of more than 15 million over a 4-season period. Currently, we are spending £2.5 million a year on wages. So if we were to, over a 4-year period, not make any money whatsoever, our total losses would be around 10 million. So that's not going to be a concern. Elsewhere, there's no real massive things to be worried about. So from a financial fair play point of view, we don't have to worry too much here in the Championship. Of course, the worry is if we don't stay up, we're going to be back in our current league. Now, one thing to be aware of is players with a contract length of 3 years or more, when the club were relegated from the Championship the previous year, do not count towards the transfer cap. So if we can get players in on longer term deals, which we've been doing a little bit of, it will mean that they don't come back to bite us if we do get relegated back down. So long contracts could be kind of important. If we find ourselves with the writing on the wall, knowing we're going to go down, it might be time to offer players a load of longer term deals, knowing they won't count towards the wage cap, and kind of play the system a little bit. So I think the plan of attack for today, at least initially, is going to be to get to the season tick-over date, see how things are looking in the Championship, just confirm we are indeed predicted to finish bottom, and of course get to the 1st of July, because there should hopefully be a few more players available then, players who have been released from their current clubs that maybe take significant wage drops and are willing to talk to us. I hope that's going to be the case, or we are going to be in trouble. I mean, if this doesn't give you an idea of how things look here at Guernsey, nothing will. Derby top the sponsorship table. They made £3.5 million in sponsorships. The league total was 26 million. We made the least amount of money through sponsorships at £110,000 a week. Yeah, we really are a really small club. I don't know if I've stressed that enough yet. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back. Sky Bet League 1 signings of the season. We didn't actually have the best signing. That was Zach Lovelace, who actually was a player I wanted to sign, but didn't have the money to sign. He's very blooming good. Unfortunately, we didn't get him. Who we did get, though, Rigby, Williams, Kamara. They make up 3 of the 4 runners-up. And I'll be honest, it fills my heart with warmth to see Darren Rigby up there. Darren Rigby being recognised as a good signing. Just as a reminder, we signed him from Burnley, wasn't it? Yeah, it was Burnley, and he'd only ever played in the National League and League 2 before. He made that step up with us last year. And I think now with that inbox item, that means we are now into the next year. So everything's about to update. This day's going to take a little longer to process, but hopefully now we're in the Championship. Season expectations, attempt to avoid relegation. I'm glad the board are being realistic about it. I do have a pretty safe suspicion that if we were to get relegated, I wouldn't get sacked. I think Neil knows that we've done quite good to get this high up. I suppose the question now is, in the Championship, where are we predicted to finish? And the answer is we are predicted to finish bottom. I think my face is in the way. Jack, editing Jack, can we move the face cam across? Thank you. 300 to 1 to get promoted. I mean, it doesn't look good, does it? I mean, our salary per year is 2.51 million as things stand. MK Dons, the next lowest in the league, 5.8. So theirs is double ours. If we just look at Middlesbrough, their salary per year is 65.59 million. They are literally paying like 30 times more on wages than we are. I mean, Middlesbrough were in the Championship last year, and they've got a player on £79,000 a week in this man. This man's on £79,000 a week. My entire wage budget is £75,000. Football is not fair. Let's look at the positive. The league history table's updated, and it looks very satisfying. I thought after 3 promotions in a row, we wouldn't see that again, especially after getting stuck in the National League. But look at this, 3 more years of back-to-back promotions. We haven't won the league in any of those, so I think that's quite the achievement, really. Have just also noticed our club value now sits at 11.25 million. I believe in the Championship you get like £7 million in TV revenue, so that will be quite appreciated, assuming it is around that. I hope I'm not misremembering, or this will be awkward. So one thing I am just doing here is I've sorted all the players with contracts expiring by their wages. Some of these earn way more than I could ever afford to pay, but we're going to scout them all in the hope that when these guys become free agents, maybe some of them want to join us. Yeah, I hope my scouts are looking forward to a busy couple of weeks because they're going to have about 200 players to scout. Have also just noticed I have 2 more spots for scouts. Let's get in 2 more scouts. This man is a 19-year-old scout regen. I've never seen a 19-year-old scout regen. He's got really good attributes as well, and he has extensive knowledge of Bermuda. Sign me up. Have also noticed we might be lacking a little bit in the goalkeeping and fitness coaching departments, and we've got 2 coaching spots, so I'm going to go get in some coaches too. People sometimes ask me, Jack, will you show how you do your staff in Football Manager? Because, you know, people are interested. Honestly, staff are the most boring part of Football Manager because there's no attribute masking on them. Of course, you could just open up applications and only accept them. But the way to find the best staff is basically to identify the role you need them to do, then just plug in the attributes you want, and then just find the best person for the job. Like Sam Walker here. Although I have just noticed Sam Walker wants £35,000 in compensation to be signed from Arbroath. I don't think I can actually afford that, which is a little bit awkward. I mean, our current goalkeeping coach is very good at shot stopping, less good at handling and distribution. So we'll leave, I think, Lewis Thompson doing shot stopping. We'll just find a handling specialist. Right, Darren Ibrahim, he looks like he'll do the business. He wants £2,000 a week. I can only offer 1.1 thousand. This is awkward. Okay, Liam Vaughan here of Maidenhead. Not the best goalkeeping coach in the world, but the best that we can get. His contract at Maidenhead is expired. Even he wants £1.1 thousand per week. The other thing on our shopping list is a new fitness coach. Adam Ross here apparently is a physio who once upon a time did do some fitness coaching. Actually looks pretty good. He's also a free agent, wants to be a physio. Mate, you can't be a physio. I'm sorry. Career change time. You're a fitness coach. Happy birthday. And just like that, I'm hoping we've got our staff sorted for the year. There you go. I did it. For the people who want to see my coaching and staff and stuff, that's how I do it. Also, the medical team needs additions too. Stoke City have offered me a job interview. Stoke, currently 21st in the Championship. No thank you, Stoke. Decline. I mentioned £7 million earlier. I mean, 2.93 million is still quite good money, especially for us. We have just officially got our opening games of the season. Cardiff City at home, Crystal Palace away, Ipswich at home. Crystal Palace are quite a good team. They've only just been relegated from the Premier League. That is going to be a baptism of fire tomorrow, isn't it? Not looking forward to it. One advantage we do have to sharing with Torquay in a ground share right now is that in pre-season, there are actually like local teams that are willing to play me. There was a situation where we were playing on the island of Guernsey where teams weren't willing to come and travel for pre-season friendlies, and so I could never play against very small reputation teams. That is no longer a problem. So I have finally found a positive to the fact we no longer play in Guernsey. Okay, pre-season friendlies organised, not quite as glamorous as it has been in previous years, but I'm hoping with some more winnable games at the end, maybe we'll just have a bit more morale for that start of the season that I already mentioned. Of course, the aim this season is simply to stay up. Blackburn Rovers have made an offer for Wayne Beckford. Just as a reminder, he's got a release clause of 325k and Blackburn were promoted to the Premier League, so they can almost certainly afford this release clause. Unless they trigger it, I don't intend on selling him. I'd love to get him to sign a new deal, but he wants to go to Blackburn, and I have already told him, hey, if your minimum release clause is met, I'll sell you. So there is a risk that we lose one more piece of our back three today, which would be a problem because I'm not sure Scott Williams can be a centre-back on his own. I don't think that's going to keep us up. You might remember, end of last episode, we scouted all the players within Europe who would get a work permit. Here are some of the players. Are any of them actually any good? Omar Lesse. Or Lise. Weird set of positions he can play. Is he good? I'm not sure he's that good. It's a bit concerning, isn't it, when you flick through these players and a lot of them have League One potential. That's not really what we're looking for at this moment in time. Good news, everyone. All these staff members that we asked to sign are actually signing for us rather than signing for other clubs. So at least I've got one market I'm dominating in. In the staff department, we are actually looking kind of good all of a sudden. Decided I'd try and sign Daniel Hooper again. Apparently Everton feel that Hooper should be tested in a different environment. What does that even mean? Also, it is the 1st of July now, so there should be a whole load of players now released that we can go and sign. No longer are we looking for players expiring in 1 month. Instead, we're looking at all these players with contracts that are expired, and I'll tell you what, there's not a shortage of players here. I'm going to offer them all trials. Why not? Okay, we have had some offers for Mamadou Diop. He's a good little player, but I don't think he's quite good enough for us. He was unhappy at the club, and he was a player we loaned out for the second half of last season. Whilst we are looking light in the centre-back department, don't really feel like he's the man who's ever going to solve our problems. We signed him on a free. We're going to get a little bit of money for him. Yeah, not the most money in the world, but at least we're getting him off the wages. Just accepting all the trials. This is going to take a while. I've hit the limit as well of 30 trialists. I accidentally offered 60 players placement, so we've had to send half of them home. Okay, I've got in all these trialists. A few of them have quite good ratings, so I suppose I'm going to look through them and review them, and I'll talk about any that look good. Josh Nichols here is a player who I did have my eye on. He's 24 years old, versatile, can play on the left and right hand side, which I do value kind of highly. I'm wondering how much he'd want a week to join us. Apparently he wants to be an important player. I can't promise him he'll be an important player. He really wants to be important. Let's just see how much he wants a week. I mean, 3.8 thousand would make him the highest earner at the club. So, of course, I'm not going to offer him that kind of offer, but it gives me hope that maybe some of the players here might be more reasonable. I mean, centre-backs are going to be the order of the day. Bobby Thomas here is a kind of good-looking little player, really consistent, likes important matches, 30 years old, was playing for Carlisle in League 2, has previously played in League 1 as a player, even made a couple of appearances for Burnley in the Premier League. Unsurprisingly, he only played 4 games in the Premier League. He's not a bad player. I'm going to need a bit of depth in the centre-back position. I suppose the question is, how much is he going to expect? And this initial negotiation has me a little bit worried. Okay, he wants a relegation release clause, which is a bit annoying, but we can't do a lot about it. £2,000 a week I'm going to offer him with a 25% relegation wage drop. Naturally, I think we'd lose him anyway if we were to get relegated, but at 30 years old, he'd only really be coming in as a squad player. I mean, good news, he's not immediately thrown my offer back in my face. It's not the most monster offer ever or the most blockbuster signing, but for a bit of depth in the centre-back department, I think he's a pretty good addition. I mean, when you compare him to Beckford, who we are at risk of losing, he's comparable, not quite as quick, not quite as good physically, but has definitely other strengths to his game. And yeah, for £2,000 a week, as kind of a more squad option, I think he'd be kind of a good addition. I am concerned a little bit by our depth at centre mid, and Marcus McGuane here looks like a pretty good option at 32 years old. We'd probably only bring him in for a singular year. I think he could play as, well, probably the box-to-box midfielder in our system, the man who plays alongside the deep-line playmaker. Whether or not he'd start, I'm less certain of. I mean, if we just compare him with Earthy, I guess would be the player to compare him with. I mean, he's a different kind of player, really. Good defensively, which could be really useful to have on off the bench to shut down games. At 32 years old, naturally, I'm not really going to be inclined to offer him a long-term deal. He really wants to be a star player, apparently. He wants £6,500 a week. That is more than double my current highest earner. I can't offer that. Now, here's the thing. I could offer that. I can afford that. And I know there's going to be people in the comments saying, Jack, you should be spending the wage budget that you have. But the issue is if I bring him in on £6,000 as a key player, all the other key players in the squad are going to look around and think, I should be on £6,000 too. It's a really important consideration when you're signing new players, that when you sign someone on a certain amount of money, players of that same squad status are going to expect comparable payments. And given the fact we've done quite a good job, I feel like, of managing the wage budget so far, I don't really want to nuke it for a 32-year-old and run into the risk that the likes of Abu Kamara, Scott Williams, you know, those kind of players start asking for double the money they're currently on, especially because they've only just signed new deals. It's hungry business doing a transfer special. I've got myself a banana to help me. I need thinking food. One area of the pitch where we might need a little bit more depth is the goalkeeper position. Rob Carlton is very, very unhappy at the club at the moment. I'm inclined to try and keep him around because he's homegrown at club, but as a second choice goalkeeper, maybe we could do better. One of the players we've got in on trial here is Hugo Fisher, who I'm not sure if he's a massive upgrade on Carlton. I think in certain areas that I like in a goalkeeper, he shines pretty well. 26 years old, was previously playing in the Slovakian second division, but prior to that, as you can see here, played quite a lot of football in England. Kind of curious to see how much he might want. He thinks he's a first choice goalkeeper. He needs to have a reality check. He really thinks he's a first choice goalkeeper. Never mind, there might be another goalkeeper out there. Another possible centre-back option that's caught my eye here is Dale Robinson. This man was playing for Blackburn, although he never actually really played for them. In fact, you can see here, he started his career at Blackburn, moved to Queen of the South on loan, had a loan at Cambridge as well. Doesn't look like a bad player, to be honest. Really good jumping reach, lacks in the heading department, which is a bit of a shame with all his jumping that he can do. How does he compare with Beckford? I'm worried that we're going to lose Beckford on a free. So with that in mind, getting in some players who are going to be possible replacements seems smart. Dale Robinson, it does not seem like a bad idea in terms of possible additions. Minor issue, he immediately wants to be a star player and he wants a release clause. This could go south rather quickly. Let's promise him important player, but he really wants to be a star. He wants £8,000 a week. We're leaving. Having gone through now all the players who've got on trial, so many of these players are just massively overrated. Like Oscar Millington here, apparently 4-star ability. I mean, I'm just not buying it. I don't think he's that good. Doesn't like important matches, is inconsistent, but apparently good. But he's not actually good. At least in my opinion. I think we could do better. Yeah, of all these players here, maybe one or two that are actually any good. Thomas Williams here was a player who I had my eye on because he was transfer listed at Sheffield United. He has since been released. He is not a bad player. At 22 years old, he'd need to develop a little bit, but he has some really good mentals and some really good physicals. His technicals aren't mega exciting. You can see here as a shadow striker, though, I do feel like you could do a lot worse. He's got some decent traits as well, and as a free transfer, he could be useful. Let's see if we can get him in as maybe a starter. I feel like he could offer some competition to Brian in the team. Minor issue, he wants £6,500 a week, which for any other championship team would be more than reasonable, but I cannot afford that. Have just been looking through some of Man City's players like Eduardo Carrillo here, who would be a really good signing to make, but they want him to play with higher quality players. Ward here, I think, was on loan at Stoke last year. Again, they'd rather he play with higher quality players. I did think once we reached the championship, Man City might actually loan us players, but apparently I'm wrong. It might be worth looking at players who are transfer listed, but given our kind of current financial predicament, £500,000 isn't really going to sign us anyone. I say that, then I stumble across this man. Luis Teixeira, 20 years old, Portuguese centre-back. Hibs won 140k for him. I really like the look of this man. One minor issue, he's mega injury prone. How mega is mega? I mean, in the last 4 years, that's quite a lot of moderate injuries. But He does have 20 jumping reach, and he does look very, very good as a centre-back. He might be worth a punt, you know. I just feel like for 140k, he might be a bargain. We'll see how much he wants actually wage-wise, but he could be an option for us. That's all I'm going to say. We are also still looking for a right-back. Jordan Gabriel here, 32 years old, Scottish. He actually doesn't look that bad, and he's got 15 long throws. It's a bit of a shame he's on £8,000 a week. Remember Jack Charlton, who we had on loan in League 2? He is now transfers listed by Coventry for 1.1 million. He is not worth £1.1 million. I'm just going to say it. We're all thinking it. Our offer for Tejera has been accepted. He wants £2.4 to £3.4 thousand a week. I mean, here's the thing. If he stays fit, he's probably worth that money. If he doesn't stay fit, he's definitely not worth it, but at least there's the chance of maybe a sell-on. The other issue here is they want a minimum fee release clause of 800k. Oh, do I really want to put myself in a situation I am in right now with Beckford where I'm scared that we're going to lose him? But with Tejera here, especially for only 800k, it almost doesn't feel worth the pain. Also, why does his agent dislike me? No idea. I know there's some people who aren't that bothered about minimum release clauses, but for me personally, with a player like this, when I'm taking a risk, I want there to be a payoff for the risk. I want there to be the chance that if he stays fit, he has a chance to be sold on for a load of money. There's so much to like about him, and that release clause is just an absolute spanner in the works. I mean, he probably is good enough to play for us, but do I want to have someone who I know is probably worth more than that release clause just sat around waiting for him to go? And I'm really not sure I want that. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to negotiate an offer, and then off the back of that, I can obviously choose to turn it down or delay it or whatever. If I can get him for £2,000 a week, I'd be very, very happy. I mean, it's really not a terrible contract, especially compared to some of the players we've been looking at, but I almost feel like you're going to lose him for 800k like in 6 months' time. He's that good of a player, but maybe that's just a chance I have to take because he is a phenomenal centre-back. He's way better than pretty much anyone we've got. I mean, if I compare him with Scott Williams, you can see here, he's better than Scott Williams. And for 140k, at the very least, we're going to make some money. I think that's the way we have to view that one. I have got to remember as well, we still need a right wing-back. We still don't have a right wing-back. I mean, worst comes to worst, I could just promote Hassana back because no one wants him. But I don't really want this man to be my starting right wing-back this year. If we were to kind of stick with things as they are, Haddo would have to play right-back, which, I mean, that does make me squirm a little, that thought, because I don't think he's quite good enough for the Championship. I mean, that might be the understatement of the year. He could do a job as a backup, but I don't want to be relying on him. According to our staff, he's a League 2 player, so it would be a gamble. I mean, one man who's available is Alan Pounder. Fantastic name, it has to be said. 23 years old. Was playing for Sunderland, who have just been promoted to the Premier League. Actually played 11 games as part of their promotion campaign. Unfortunately, Derby have already made an offer for him. And also, unfortunately, he thinks we lack the financial muscle to sign him, which, I mean, probably is a safe assumption. Of all the right-back options we've looked at, there's a couple that stand out to me, but the one that I keep coming back to is Jordan Gabriel. I feel like it might just be worth making the offer of 75k and seeing how much he wants a week in wages. I'd like to think he'd be reasonable with kind of his wage expectations given our current predicament. He could be a great player. Let's see how much he wants. 4.5 thousand. Oh, he's tempting me now. I need a right back, folks. I need a... That is the name of the game. This man has played at the Championship level for a lot of years. Now, has he been a great Championship right back? Probably not. But as a short-term option, given there isn't really an alternative out there, would he necessarily be a bad signing? Here he is compared to Jack McKenzie, who's the left back we signed, on £3,000 a week. I'm going to try and get him down to 3.5. And if we can make it happen, amazing. If we can't, I'll cry a little. Now, because he's 32, I can only offer him a 1-year deal. That is something our board are currently enforcing, but I am going to try and put in an optional contract extension of 1 year, see if he's interested in it. I'm going to lowball him to begin with here at £3,000, which I know he's not going to be happy with, but I think I've got to take a gamble somewhere. I will also put a sell on profit percentage. Reality is he's never really going to be sold for any money, so we can put this at 40% and be happy. His appearance fee is a little on the high side, so I'm going to negotiate that down. Let's see what he thinks of that. He really wants £4,500 a week. What about 3.2? I'm trying to negotiate here, folks. 3.4. Will he do 3.4? He really wants £4,500 a week, and I don't think I can go that low. I'm going to lock it in at 4,000. He's killing me. He's killing me. £4,000 for this man is not worth it, but I don't have a better right-back option. I mean, his physicals aren't completely dead. He's got 17 determination. I mean, if push comes to shove, we've only got him for 1 year. So if it doesn't work out, it's not like I'm going to be stuck, not able to get rid of him. I'm going to finalise it. I might change my mind, but I do think he's a pretty good right back, at least compared to what else is out there for us right now. I mean, to be fair, he is currently on £8,250 a week, so he has halved his wages to come to us, which I do respect. Now, in yesterday's video, comment section, someone said to me, Jack, you should go check South America for players. And you know what? Desperate times call for desperate measures. I've upped our scouting range for the first time to worldwide. It's costing us £30,000 a month. Our scouting budget isn't going to last very long with this, but I've set work permit chance unlikely, region based in South America or North America, and I'll tell you what, there are actually some players who might be interested in joining us. I suppose the sticking point is going to be, I don't really have any actual transfer budget to spend, but, I mean, there's some players here valued at nothing. Ricardo Retamal. I mean, he's bad, isn't he? Next. This guy from Fluminense, his name's Pablo, he's basic, he's not good either. Maximilio Pintos, no. Miguel Diaz, no. I will say now, there's only 27 players apparently who are actually interested in joining us. If I untick interested in transfer, there's like over 300 players who might get a work permit who could join us. We don't have that much pulling power. I want it known, I have looked through South America. None of the players who are interested in joining me are any good, sadly. You know, I'm getting a little bit desperate here because I'm now just looking at players who get a work permit who have played at least once for their under-21 national team. For people who are getting anxious, don't worry, I have now remembered to lower the scouting range. So we're not going to be spending £30,000 a month just looking around the world. So I was just doing my thing, looking through the different home nations kind of dream 11s for the top divisions. I was in Northern Ireland just flicking through these players. By the way, Aaron Kearney here, very good player. Kind of player I'd like to sign eventually. At the moment, he has no interest in joining us. But there was one man who did catch my eye, who might be interested. Darren Dixon, or Double D, as I believe his friends like to call him. Darren Dixon, 16 years old, still on a youth contract. Can I sign him? Lana asking for 180k. Oh, I could actually afford this. Darren, 200k for him? Am I losing the plot? He looks like a 200k player, right? I've got my hopes up here. I'm going to hit continue and he's going to tell me he has no interest. We'll add him to the shortlist. This is why you should never get your hopes up. Okay, this is a fun little interesting signing. Lewis Ferguson is joining us as a coach, and he's actually not a bad attacking technical coach. So, welcome back to Guernsey, my friend. He's not had a job since he left, as he decided to retire from football and become a coach. And, he's back wearing Guernsey colours. I mean, coaches don't wear the football kits that the Guernsey team do, but he wears like a green tracksuit or something. And with that new coaching edition, here is how the coaching at the club looks. We've pretty much got now a baseline of 3.5-star coaching in every single category, which is actually really, really good. I'm quite happy with this. Considering the budget that we're under, considering the size of club that we are, I don't feel like now the coaches are the bottleneck. Now, really, it's going to be about improving the facilities where we can. Got more scout reports coming in on players from when we upped our scouting range, by the way. There is actually a goalkeeper here. Bernhard Teufel, Austrian goalkeeper, 24 years old, was at Augsburg. Doesn't look terrible. I assume he would get a work permit, otherwise we wouldn't have scouted him initially. He wants to be a star player. Is he happy being a backup? No. Okay, Tejera is set to sign for us. I think I have to confirm this deal. I think it's an absolute bargain for 140k, but that injury proneness is going to scare me, as is the release clause. It is undeniably a gamble. The ideal scenario here is he doesn't get many injuries. We can renew his contract in a few months and get rid of the release clause, and he is really happy playing for us, and we all live happily ever after. That's probably not how it's going to happen, and I'm going to be left very, very upset. But I think right now he probably is up there as one of our best centre-back options. Also, he has got 20 jumping reach, so that'll be fun from set pieces. Our first team squad is still only 20 players. We have, of course, still got a few players who are hopefully going to be joining us. A couple of youngsters being loaned out as well. But I still feel like we've got a little bit of transfer business to get done here. Okay, Jordan Gabriel here. I mean, he is the best right back we've seen by a country mile. It is still only the 5th of July, so I think at least for now, I'm going to delay this one. The kind of deal that we will probably end up confirming, I think, because I don't think there's going to be a better right back out there. But if he joins us, he is a very, very experienced player at this level. That is certainly something we are lacking at the moment. Okay, some more really good news. Bobby Thomas is going to join us. He is going to be our 6th centre-back in the team, 30 years old. Yeah, I mean, really good free transfer, I think. Of course, for him, it is a 2-year deal with a release clause, which isn't exactly ideal. But as a squad player, on the money that we're paying him, I think he's going to offer us some pretty good depth. He comes in, and as you can see, at least in the squad comparison screen at centre-back, apparently he is considered our 4th best option. Not sure I agree with that, but who am I to argue? So just looking at the squad depth as things stand, I feel like in terms of the defence, centre-backs and goalkeepers, we're okay. Still maybe looking for that 3rd choice goalkeeper, but at centre-back, we've got Beckford, who can play left centre-back, Tejera, who can now slot in the middle, Scott Williams can play to the right. Behind them, of course, there is the likes of Apaya. There is also, if we just look, Bobby Thomas, who, of course, is the new addition to the team, and also Jay McGrath. It's not the strongest set of players, but if we're in League One, it would be more than adequate, I feel like. And ultimately, like I've said before, we've kind of got to approach this as we are building a team to get promoted from League One rather than staying up in the Championship just because of where we're at. In the wing-back areas, I love, of course, Jay Haddo because he can play on the left and right-hand side. In terms of left-back options, obviously, we've got Owen Beck as well as Mackenzie, who are 2 good left-back options. Still think we're short of at least 1 right-back option, though. The reality is Scott Williams is not going to be playing right-back for us, even if he can naturally play there. Moving on up into the midfield, I think there might still be a spot in the team to bring in either a really high-quality box-to-box or deep-line playmaker midfielder. In an ideal world, we'd sign both, but I just don't think such an option exists. At least to start the year, of course, we're going to have Connor Panny playing as that deep-line playmaker on defend. When you actually look at his attributes for this role, with the exception of his first touch and tackling, I think he's an okay player for at least where we're at right now. In terms of Earthy, as a box-to-box midfielder, I rate him very, very highly, of course. Very, very mobile, great acceleration, great pace, really good work rate as well, good technique, good ability on the ball and some finishing to boot. And I feel like alongside Panny, they're kind of complementary to one another. At centre attacking mid, I think to start the year, Brian Davis will be the man that we look to there. Of course, in on loan from Man City. We have looked at other loan options. They don't exist. The backups in that area include the likes of Earthy, AC, and of course Williams, who we've brought in, who's a bit of a freak of nature, probably more likely to be the backup striker, but can slot in at centre attacking mid if needed. And while speaking of strikers, we've got 5 options here. We've got Williams, Burstow, of course, another one of the new additions alongside the Jamaican forward. And then on the other hand side, you can see here, we've got Brandon Charles, Tim Apshawn, and Abu Kamara. That's the team as things stand. I still feel like the right back's the order of the day. I mean, I say that. In terms of transfers in, I've got the right back, and I think Jordan Gabriel might be the right back. I'll continue to look, but my heart's somewhat set on him. If he was to join us on £4,000 a week, that would leave us with around £12,000 a week excess on the wages, just to provide a bit of context. So, as much as you might think I've been lowballing and not spending a load of money wage-wise, we're not that far away from the wage budget all of a sudden, and that would be with a squad of only 22 players. So once you sign maybe 1 or 2 new players, we're pretty much going to be at the wage budget with our current spending. As part of my ongoing search to trial every player on planet Earth, we were just looking at some potential options who were likely to get work permits in a few different positions. And one player who came up, who, well, I thought he'd show up here. He doesn't show up here because he's currently in on trial, was this man, Percy Donald. He was released by Vitesse. He was playing in the top division of the Netherlands. He looks really, really good. 24 years old, apparently a defensive midfielder. I'll be honest, he's not the most offensive of defensive midfielders I've ever seen. I actually wonder if he could do a bit of a job as maybe some kind of shadow striker or at least an attacking midfielder. With his mentals, with his physicals and his technicals, with the exception of his finishing, he might be slightly better suited to the final third. Either way, he's super consistent. He likes important matches. And he's interested in talking to us. And I'm interested in talking to him. How much do you want, Percy Donald? It hurts. It really hurts. I could actually offer him 8,500, but for the reasons I've already discussed, I just can't offer him that. There were a couple of other players that we picked up on trial. This guy, Pivoty, interesting player, plays for Martinique. Martinique. I don't know how you say it. Martinique. Answers on a postcard. It sounds French, doesn't it? He's not a bad player, but I don't really need a left back right now. And another man we've got in is Dennis Montanari, who, not quite as excited as the other options I've just shown at centre mid, I think. Player who's just popped up on my radar, who I don't remember seeing before, is Kamar Allen. Now, I definitely haven't had this guy in on trial. 21 years old, was released by Arsenal. Last year was playing in the Scottish Premier League. Don't necessarily need a left-back right now, but he looks very, very good. I suppose the question is, how much does he want? Is he going to be value for money? He wants... The answer to both is, he wants 10,000, and is it value for money? Absolutely not. It's going to be worth just keeping them on our radar. Players' wage expectations will drop kind of rapidly as pre-season goes on, and they're desperately looking for their next move. Also, there's a player from Indonesia here. That's immediately caught my eye. He's a centre-back. I don't need a centre-back. But yeah, just going back to the previous point, need to remind myself, it's still only the first week of July. There's still a lot of the summer left. I don't have to make a load of decisions right now. That said, I don't know about anyone else. I kind of like to just get all my transfer business done nice and early in Football Manager, and then you can enjoy the last few weeks of the pre-season with your actual team playing together. So I have been looking at some players that perhaps we could loan. Regan Matthews, I've sent a scout out to look at. He probably is the best centre mid out there if we wanted to add a bit more depth in that position via a loan. The issue that I'm really having with loans is the players that are available to bring in on loan aren't that good. Obviously, this is with it on interested. I find when you have loan interest on doubtful, the players just turn you down all the time. But of these players, perhaps the most notable is this guy, Damien Nesbitt, who, don't get me wrong, he's not a bad player by any means, but when I compare him to Teixeira, it helps if I actually click on Teixeira, but when you compare him to Teixeira, he's really not a significant improvement, and given the wage contribution that Chelsea would be expecting, and also the fact that we don't really own him as a player, he has no resale value for us, just doesn't feel that appealing as an option. On top of that, of course, with our current training facilities of only 1.5 star, we just don't have a particular appeal, I suppose, to teams loaning out younger players. If you want to loan out a player, you want them to develop. If you were to look at our team, we probably don't look like the kind of team that's going to develop your players to their maximum. In the previous transfer special, you might remember I was looking at Peter Sheridan, and I'm still thinking about Peter Sheridan. I can't get him off my mind. The right back, of course, of Sheffield Wednesday. The one player who really, I think, could compete with Jordan Gabriel for the right back position. I suppose the weird thing here is Sheridan is obviously much younger, probably going to be cheaper on the wages, has better physicals and mentals, but as an overall player, I think Gabriel is just way, way better, to be honest. Physicals are better. Maybe the slight mental edge goes in favour of Sheridan, which seems counterintuitive given the fact he's the younger player, but it's kind of just convincing me more and more that Gabriel is going to be the one to bring in. It is going to sting a little bit, the fact that he's on £4,000 a week, but he's head and shoulders above our next best right back, that being Jay Haddo. And with that in mind, he is the kind of player who will pretty much play every single game this season. And for £4,000 a week, it's a 1-year deal. I think I just got to do it. So I'm going to confirm this one. He's not a young player. He's not going to have a load of resale value, but he solves a problem position for at least 1 year. But with his current kind of natural fitness and his current physicals, I think there's definitely the opportunity that down the line, if he doesn't decline too much over his first season at the club, we might try and renew his contract for another year. Haddo doesn't seem himself at the moment. He's getting down about the fact that Jordan Gabriel's joined us. Jay, look, it's going to be okay, mate. He's happy that I've talked to him. We've smoothed it over. Everything's fine. I suppose one nice thing is, whilst we have had large turnover in players, I do feel like it's kind of been done in stages. We actually hold a really good standing with a lot of the dressing room, which does mean when it comes to players being unhappy and stuff, it's relatively easy to talk them down from problems. So if the season started now, this would be the team. Is it a good team? Is it a great team? Is it a championship team? I'm not sure the answers to any of those questions. We're going to find out next episode. Teixeira in at centre-back, Gabriel in at right-back. Of course, Burstow, Davies and McKenzie, also new additions to the team. And ultimately, in signing all these players, and while we don't really have anyone else joining at the moment, we've not completely nuked the finances. We're actually in a really, really good spot. There's still £12,000 to spend if I do want to bring in 1 or 2 more players. I think, though, for today, I am going to leave things here. I appreciate it's still relatively early on in the transfer window. The start of the season is a month away, but truth be told, I think we've done the bulk of our transfer business now. If I am to make any kind of shock signings, you'll have to find out about them tomorrow. I still think a little bit more depth at centre but mid is probably needed. Besides that, though, I think we've actually done okay considering all the kind of tricky financial stipulations we find ourselves under. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the last 2 days of transfer specials. I'm very excited now to get into the championship season. If you want to leave a review for my transfer window. What do you make of the business we've done? Of course, a lot of the business was actually done before the season ticked over. But yeah, let me know what you think of the transfer business. Good signings, bad signings. Would you have approached things differently? I think ultimately with the pull that we have, given our poor reputation and poor facilities, we just can't find high enough quality players. Maybe as the transfer window goes on, as the season starts, there'll be a few more players open to joining us. But right now, we're spending, just shy of £64,000 a week on wages. The reality is that with £10,000 free, that's probably only going to be maybe 2 or 3 new signings in the first team at the very least. And if we ignore trialists at least for now, and I know that when I hide the trialists, it also hides in the one player in on loan, but our current first team size is 22 players. It's 22. I don't know why it does this, but the loanees are lumped in with the trialists. Why is that a thing? Football Manager, Sports Interactive, please separate the on loan and on trial button here into separate things. I want to see Brian Davis. I don't want to see all these other blokes above. I suppose the solution to all of this is just to move them to the under 21s. There, problem solved. There's the team for the year. Thank you so much for watching today's video. We are going to be kicking off the season tomorrow. Cardiff City to kick things off, and then Crystal Palace away. An away day to Selhurst Park. That's going to be a little bit exciting. Of course, we managed Crystal Palace just last year in Park to Prem. Have a lovely rest of your Wednesday. We will be back tomorrow for more action. Until then, it is me, Jack, and I'll see you all on the next one. I'm out.